Hey guys, Infidel1258 here. Today, myself and Isaac, which is one of my time and attention guild mates and co-leaders, are going to discuss the bull case for land. We're going to get into why this is absolutely transformative for Splinterlands. Not only is it going to absolutely necessitate the return to peg for DEC, and that will translate to burning of SPS, which is an amazing, exciting thing for our economy, but there's a total soaking up, almost an erasure of supply for cards. That's going to have impact on rental and prices of each of the cards we own. And then additionally, not even from a financial aspect, it's going to revolutionize the gameplay because these items and spells are going to transform how we battle. So this is so massive, and this conversation is really around the bull case for land, but we're going to start by talking about in the launch phase, in the first few weeks of when land is released. I think there might be a unique opportunity to acquire plots of land, perhaps lower than the current price point. So it's like a bear case short-term, massive bull case long-term. And special thanks to Isaac for hanging out today. Have an amazing day. God bless.
Alien worlds, right? Which I think actually had a decent model for how land worked. But the cheapest plot of land in that game, and everyone could use the same plot of land in that game, but the cheapest plot of land in that game was 4 to 5K for a common plot of land. It's like, so you're telling me in this one, we have less land than they had. And I feel like we have more players than they have. And I'm sitting here like, are we looking at something where common and rare lands could be going for like 30 to 50 bucks during the survey time? Because if that's the case, I want to pick up 10 or 20 of them.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's just ridiculous because I think every land's going to eventually be worth $500 to $1,000.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting here like, because the only reason I say that is because if they're not picking up the DEC to cover 100 or 1,000 plots of land at a 25% discount, I don't get it. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. It's like, this DEC should have went to peg instantly.
Yeah, it's astonishing. As soon as they talk about it's really, I think it's pointing to what I talk about sometimes, which is that we are kind of like a cat chasing the laser, the laser toy, and we are right now, our attention is elsewhere. And when they come out and they've said two things that to me are really transformative, like massive. One of them is that, like, everything we've touched on already around land, like the 50,000 DEC per plot of land with, hey, you're going to want all of these different potions, these different starter kits or whatever, the 10,000 for each of them. That's 30,000. And then you have monsters you need to put in there. And then the monsters need to be resourced with the DEC. And then there's also there's even just the initial cleaning of the land. There's all these processing elements that are going to absolutely drive they're going to use all DEC. If it's 50,000 DEC, just quick math times 150,000 plots, you're talking 100,000 million. That's 7.5 billion DEC. And I think there's
only 6.3 right now.
Yeah.
We have just that fully activate all the lands.
Yeah.
You need an additional 1.2 billion DEC.
And what would that do to SPS price, which is almost a separate conversation, but just quickly to excite, because if we actually had to burn if we had to access 1 billion DEC via burning the SPS, that would be exciting. But its own conversation too. And I think before we move there, the DEC just, one thing to note is that not every plot, I don't really believe every plot will be activated. Not just because of the cost we're talking about, but that's part of it. I actually think there's going to be some number of AFK participants who bought land and just, I don't know, maybe they forgot their keys, maybe they died, maybe they, who knows what. There'll be some element of that. And then there'll be some element of just can't afford it yet. And yet I think what you said earlier is true, that there will be some, because we I don't think anyone's really with the 1,000 plots, 2,000 plots, 500 plots, these big guys, I don't really think they're ready to do the 50,000 DEC to get it going, to buy the totems, to get the cards, to launch them all. So what you said earlier, I think is true, that they're going to end up selectively choosing to keep X percentage of their own plots as they survey them, and then market the others, which could be exactly what you said, leading to, maybe a glut of supply with perhaps a lack of demand, because all the people who want land have their plots and they're actually
I just
they're trying to
so
sell now. You know what I mean? It could be what you said.
that's what I would. So that's how I would pitch this for anybody who's in the game. Because like me, I came in after the land sale, right? I started at land sale had already happened, right? And it was my goal to get upturn land. I got one land, and eventually I got two lands. Right? My wife bought me a land for a Father's Day present, and I sold some cards and got a second land. Right?
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
I got two land plots. Great. But anybody who hasn't been able to get land and is feeling like they're going to be on the outside of land,
Yep.
I think surveying before, but the time between survey and between development, when we can actually start building,
Mm-hmm.
this is probably your last cheapest point to get in on land.
I think
And
so.
yes, you won't be able to get that magical keep or random chance that you get a legendary land, because those are going to be selling higher
Yep.
than before. But if you want to play the game and be in on the market where you're getting X resources that you can swap around to create the spell and item cards you need,
Yep.
like this is your last chance to really get in. And it might be the best chance unless you want to go out on the secondary market right now. And what's the land? Land's up last time I looked. I haven't looked today, but it was down to 130, and now it's up to almost 160. Right, it's up like $30 from its low point, where you could buy a land for under 130. So it's like $160 for a land. Like, yeah, you could go buy one. There's only 58 even for sale right now, but you could go pick up a land, a lottery ticket essentially,
Mm-hmm.
and hope you get one. I'm actually thinking about picking up some of these totems
Mm-hmm.
at $24 just to have a common totem,
Yeah.
uh, just to have one on my two land plots. But yeah, like you could go pick up these at 160, but I think if you wait, I think you may be able to get $25 common plots of land, maybe $30 plots of common land.
I think that makes a lot of sense, and I've said something to that effect without exactly articulating as clearly. I think that's really well articulated. I think this, they're almost necessarily like we made a good argument, I think, and like I'll clip this later. I want to share this because I think people need to hear this sort of thoughtfulness, because I think it's actually probably close to the mark, but just it's like testable. You can do the math yourself and try and think through. It's like, look, there's not enough DEC for it all to be done. Not to mention the huge, even if you have enough DEC to do it for all of your plots of land, that's a huge cost. And then
Yeah.
so that almost necessitates, well, it actually definitely 100% necessitates that not all of them can be launched. But then if they can't all be launched, the people who are launching those should likely be selected, because it's such an expensive cost to do it. So they're going to likely, it seems logical to me to then conclude they would maybe not keep, as we've implied, all the best and sell all the worst. I might, if it's me, I've got 15 plus. If I open a legendary, I might well sell the legendary and then hold and maybe buy more of commons, because I do think you're going to see at the onset, you're going to see no supply, right? Like the lands aren't surveyed. The open surveyed lands aren't sorry, none exist yet. So when they are surveyable and sellable like that, with those building benefits and whatnot, there will be zero available of those, and then people will start listing those for sale. And so I think you'll see zero copies of the legendaries, and I would think that there might be like moments where you could sell a certain type of legendary land for a crazy price point. And so I might be that guy playing it the other way and trying to take advantage of what you're saying, where people will be thinking, if I can get 30, $50 for my plot of my opened common plot, then I can go out and I can maybe buy an average plot, which is currently 158 on non-card market, 143 on the Hive engine, and they might take a little bit of a loss to sell two or three of them to get access to one more unopened, hoping, like you say, for that lottery ticket to get that legendary, that gold foil, that magical whatever land. So I think it's going to go both ways, where some will be moving out of commons, selling commons, and some will be like you and probably me buying those. But question,
Yes.
that it
Okay.
almost, to me, the question is, I think everything we said there is probably makes a lot of sense to me, and I think that's kind of my new vision of this. But then totems to me seems to be the next conversation, because like you said, $24 for a common totem. You can buy for 10,000 DECs a legendary totem, which decays. It's like going to last for 1 month. That's one of the packs that you can have access to. But
Yeah.
for $24, and I would argue 10,000 DEC should, in your mind, count as $10, because the peg
Yeah.
will be returned. And so for $10, you can have a temporary legendary, or for 24, you can have a permanent common. I think these totems probably go up in value, and maybe while plots are possibly coming onto the marketplace at a lower price point than are currently for the 160 just unopened plot. What do you think about totems?
Yeah. So totems have to go up, right? Like just the laws of economics should tell us once they have a use, they gotta go up, right?
Dude,
Because
I gotta
once
buy.
people start
I'm
using
buying 3 right now. I'm panic.
what?
I'm FOMOing into 3 common totems like as we speak.
But because once you can use them, right? And
Yeah.
I think land, once you can use them, I think we'll start to see the value go up of all land.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I'm saying, like, I really I would get I want to get the word out to the people who feel on the outside, because I know, I come from this kind of gaming background, and so I'm used to the look. I'm going to do my time as a noob in the game, right? I'm going to learn everything I can, but when I get to the end, I know I'm going to be good at it, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I did with every card game I've played, um, and so I'm used to that. But like I've done this for a year where I was on the outside of Splinterlands. Like I just got Maverick status, like 2-3 months ago,
Nice.
and it wasn't because I was not the whale that dropped 4K on the game. Like I still think altogether I probably only got about 2K in the game. But if you look at what I did, is I arbitraged cards and sold cards and bought cards and cut buying packs to get more airdrops, and eventually I got to that over time, that Maverick status, not in one giant purchase, right?
Yeah.
I think the last 150, I bought a bunch of packs from some DC. I got lucky and got a good golden rare and golden legendary.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought a bunch of packs. I sold the packs. I bought a bunch of packs. I sold the packs. I bought a bunch of packs. I never opened them. And I was taking a net loss just to get airdrop points, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I was losing a little bit each time, but it also got me to Maverick status in the game. So like just that slow creeping through the game, and I felt on the outside of land, and I've only got 2 lands, and I'm excited for land gets here, but I feel like there's a lot of people on Splinterlands who have no land, like 0 land.
Yeah.
And it's like if you want in on land, you should be looking at this window. Like those of us who have land are kind of not excited about this window between surveying and 1.5 when we can put our land to use. But that window, which is kind of a downside for us holding land, is an opportunity for everybody who doesn't have land.
Mm-hmm.
Which one will know what the land are. Like everybody's going to rush to survey. I don't care. Like I want to see what my land is, right? So you're going to go survey your land but you're going to be sitting there and not able to use it. So that's where I think those common, maybe even some rare lands are going to go really cheap, which is they're not the exciting legendaries, epics. They don't, if they don't have a castle or something, a keep or something on them, these lands aren't going to be as exciting. I think that's going to be your last opportunity to pick up any land before, once they have use and we're minting cards with them. I'm sorry, you're not getting a land for under $200. I just don't see any land being worth less than $200 once it's generating a unique resource in the game.
Yeah, a unique and I think a unique resource that is going to be, as I imagine it, like desperately needed. The ability that has been kind of described around being able to modify the battle that you're facing after you've launched your team, like to be able to look at the battlefield and see what's in front of you and be like, no, I'm not going to win. I'm going to use X, Y, or Z, because that's what they said about some of the items and spells. And that two-stage approach to this auto brawler video game Splinterlands is such a change and such a massive advantage over the one stage pick it, set it and forget it, that I think it will be a massive, it will distinguish dramatically between like good players and exceptional, I mean leaderboard players, and like you're just doing okay.
Yeah.
And so
So just
people are going to want them so bad and pay for them desperately.
uh, so just we all understand how hopefully how card games work. So just imagine they make a spell card that you know based on the level of the card, it either gives 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 creatures flight, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this card's just like amazing for any earthquake rule set, right? So now you need it, but you don't need one copy, you need 400 copies, which is common.
Yeah.
And you need X number of resources to make each one of those copies.
Yeah.
Like, and you have to go get these resources or go buy them on the open market from people who get them. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just can't imagine.
Yeah.
And these resources involve time. They're just not spend money, get like open packs. These require time, and that time becomes part of the valuation of, oh, I have to wait so long.
Yeah.
I mean, I just start thinking about basic cards like that, like something that just gave something like flight, or something that would, you know, give everybody bonus health or bonus attack, or like you start thinking about spell cards like that, or armor cards that might give, can you imagine a card that gave your creatures thorns, like a Mylor effect card?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, like some of this stuff could just be ridiculous, right? And being able to modify and create new combinations, it's going to be powerful. And
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have any land, you're just stuck on the market.
Even if it's these items end up being, and some from what I hear, some of them are going to be non-disposable, like they'll be reusable. And so
Yeah,
even if it's like, you can imagine an armor set that actually has thorn capacity, like it
yeah,
causes thorn damage, and then you can equip it onto what you are using as a tank, and it maybe it has, maybe it's not disposable, like it is reusable, but it has, an element of wear and tear, like a, RPG style armor would. And you'd have to like feed new resources into it. There's gonna be elements of this ongoing expenditure that of resources that the only place they come from is the land, and there's gonna be this bevy, or this like glut of different things you desperately want, whether it's items or spells that will do these massive, meaningful. Well, I don't think I would hesitate to say overpowered, because I think they'll do a good job of navigating the design so that it's not like one item or one spell is absolutely broken. But I think when you compare pre Splinterlands experience, where you have none of these, versus a player who's playing this
yeah,
game with access to all of these, I don't think you're gonna like that. The one with the access is going to be far more overpowered by necessity. Like there's just almost no way to say it otherwise. It has to be, which is, I think, going to translate to, we're all going to be playing that marketplace, looking for these. Anyone who's serious, anyone who's in the leaderboards, anyone who's thriving for champion, anyone who's trying to win tournaments. But then there will be the player who sometimes just wants whatever they can get through their time and attention, and they're okay with the 20-30 chests. They're not trying to be a leaderboard person, and maybe they don't. But man, I think with the 150,000 plots, and it's not even close to enough, and then the product only, these items and spells only coming from there, I think. You're probably right that commons and low level lands start cheaper than you would imagine. But then
yeah.
ultimately, when this thing gets launched, because of the power that we're just describing, and this is the only path to get these things, I think
Yeah.
necessarily, as we actually see land being functional and the items being produced, I think you see a massive multiplication of even common plots.
Yeah, I'm wondering how they're going to do it. There was a game on the Wax blockchain where everything like that was being crafted had to be kind of discovered,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like you had to stake different NFTs and stuff to earn points, and then you had to use your different resources, and then you had to use your resources to attempt to do crafts and
Mm-hmm.
discover a new craft,
Mm-hmm.
a new item. And then, but there was no published list of what they were, right? Like players had to actually figure them out, what the combinations were to make X things.
Huh.
I don't know. The problem with that would be our developers actually play the game, and so they would know all the combinations.
I think
Um,
I think they'll make it. Don't you think? I would imagine, and I would
yeah,
imagine they're gonna make it. They're gonna spell it all out for us.
yeah, I imagine they will. I'd kind of like to see them do it with cards, kind of like the reward cards are. Here's the reward cards, but I'd like to see them set essentially like limits of how many of each can be crafted, right? Basically say, okay, here's the our time periods of you can take these to the factory and they have, you can do X for so long, but then new things be made so that
Hmm.
it just can't always infinitely be made.
Yeah.
Um, I think that would be a better way than, I don't know, some kind of disposable effect. Just keep updating it with essentially like what they do with reward cards now.
Something that could
But yeah,
happen there, and you might have some opinion on this. It's attached to what you're saying there. Is I think about Diablo, and if you do you ever with Diablo 2, there's runes, and the runes can make
yeah,
these powerful rune words. You put two,
yeah,
three, four runes in a single item, and it transforms it. And these are in some cases the most overpowered weapons in the game, or armor pieces in the
yeah,
game. And what Diablo does is they run these seasons where rank, I think it's called rank. I forget what it's called.
yeah.
They have a
Seasonal.
yeah, and when the new season launches, your character can like you create a new character to fight in that. He's going to be at level 0, and you're not going to have any of these runes or any of these armors, and so people like are desperate to get into that game where there is zero supply and find them, hunt them, seek them so they can level up and be the guy who gets to level 99 and have the most overpowered before the season ends. And I think maybe there could be something like that in this where maybe there's seasons where you know you can imagine two types of because in Diablo there's that rank almost mode, and then there's also just who cares, I'm just playing the game. And so I actually play the who cares, like I'm not trying to climb a ladder mode in Diablo. And so I have rune items that are actually really old, from runes that are really old, and those are far more common, far easier to get. And so some people might play Splinterlands in the mode where you can do it in that, where it's like super hyper rare. But maybe if you're playing in a season or on a leaderboard or within certain tournament schemes, it might be a case where you start on day one of that tournament and you actually you have to be extracting rewards through your land plots, from day one to get to day 50 when the season ends, as to reach the highest level you can, utilizing those items that came specifically from that window of time. That could be an interesting way to almost gate, because you said, what if you had a 400 flight potions or whatever? You could
Yeah.
imagine somebody getting to a place where they never have to not play with that amazing bonus. So I don't know, something to think about.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, and I want to see how they work the spells and items into the mana costs.
Hmm.
Are you gonna have to sacrifice creatures? Are you gonna have to leave open mana after phase one to be able to play these cards? Because surely they have to have some kind of gating, right? Of,
Mm.
oh, well, you can only play one spell card, so do you have to pick what I want to give them flight this turn, or I want to like
Mm.
how's that going to work? Or summoners? Are they going to release a number of summoners who give you a number of, oh, you have to play this summoner? Is it going to be something added to summoners? How many items, spells they can play per combat? I don't
Mm.
know. It's going to, there's going to have to be some tweaks to the game there,
Hmm.
and I'm sure the team will do a good job on it.